What's up? Welcome back to Nowstalgia. Dave here with a review of BTS's sixth album, Arirang. This is BTS's sixth Korean album, their first since the double whammy of Map of the Soul 7 and B, which both came out way back in 2020. Of course, since then, there was a lot of other big hit singles and some compilation albums, but of course, BTS has been on hiatus for their military service and is now back for the first time as a group. Of course, during that hiatus, BTS was hardly really away because we had tons of solo work from everyone in BTS. Some members giving us multiple albums. And we're going to get into the album, what I like about it, track by track. But first, we have to really talk about what's happened with BTS. And I think a lot has changed since when that hiatus began and what the K-pop world they're returning to looks like. Talking about the litany of those solo releases, a lot of those I did like for various reasons. We have to talk about what Jungkook accomplished with his solo album. Jungkook became without a shadow of a doubt the most integrated K-pop star into the Western music scene. And of course, we saw Blackpink's Rose really catapult off that as well with Apate more recently. Now that BTS are back, they're coming to a music landscape that's even more welcoming to the music they've made. Look no further than, of course, the year that K-pop Demon Hunters had as a film and as music. Artists like Blackpink and Twice and Stray Kids as big as they've ever been, touring in the biggest venues they ever have. This is really unprecedented for the genre, and BTS are coming back truly like they never left. They have a Netflix live special going out this weekend, and that'll catapult them right into a world tour into 2027, 80-plus sold-out stadium shows. The scope of this band's impact is beyond obvious at this point. But of course, the key question with this BTS album is what would it sound like? What kind of music would they make? Because, of course, they ingratiated themselves quite successfully into Western pop music before this hiatus started. The great success of Dynamite and Butter, and to a lesser extent Permission to Dance, and then the success of Jungkook's solo music, with Seven and Standing Next to You and 3D. These are songs that are either exclusively or almost exclusively in English. This is just a far cry from the music they used to be making and the audience they used to be catering to. But thankfully, fears about the artistry of BTS and what kind of sound they're going for are truly unfounded once you actually listen to this new album. BTS's sixth album, Arirang, is a successful comeback that takes more risks than I expected. While they certainly worked with numerous high-profile Western producers, this is not an album full of dynamites and butters. In fact, BTS are dabbling in several genres in engaging ways. Most welcome to me was their strong return to their hip-hop roots on songs like Hooligans and Aliens. And Dance and Rock are here as well. Perhaps more importantly though, narratively, thematically, BTS sound recharged. Lyrically, they sound more mature. Perhaps this is an acknowledgement of the truly uncharted territory they find themselves in as a group, now entering their second decade, but still at the absolute pinnacle of their space. This is an album that gives all 7 members a lot of room to shine. And with that genre variety, I think there is something for every kind of BTS fan. And given that album variety, it makes the choice to use Swim as the lead single a little bit more confusing because that's a more straightforward synth pop track that doesn't really speak to what else you can find and be entertained by on this album. Honestly, I'm really pleased with this comeback. It's a really fully formed, full-length project. Given all the hype around it, I think they really pulled out a lot of the stops. Does this hold a candle to like the best BTS stuff of all time? Like, is there a spring day on this album? No. I think that's okay to not have those expectations at this point, given we're talking about year 12 of the group. Jumping into the tracks here, though, the first song, Body to Body, I really enjoyed those hard drums right away, and you get rap right away. RM and Suga going right in. And that, again, that's something I just wasn't necessarily expecting for them to really lean into that side of their music, which has not been too, top of mind for their discography, for their sonic ambitions of late. Run BTS obviously comes to mind. That was the biggest single from that compilation record. But apart from that, the most hip-hop forward stuff, you have to go back to Mic Drop, and really even before that, it's been a minute. But you get a lot of this hip-hop right away. And following the verses from RM and Suga, I think the striking Jimin high notes sound really nice. The chorus from Jin and V, I think it's just okay, but it does fit the song. It does fit the beat. There's a brief dance break moment. And in the second verse, I think J-Hope brings a lot of energy. I think J-Hope, on a lot of his moments on this album, really leaning into the kind of persona and the performance style that he honed on his last solo album, Jack in the Box. I think the bridge on this song is kind of an interlude vibe, frankly, but pretty impressive, for an opener, just the audaciousness of it. The next song though, Hooligan, this is a big highlight for me. You have these old-timey keys with some strings, then that starts glitching out, beat drops, bass drops in, J-Hope's refrain here hits really hard, then RM does that refrain, Suga does that refrain later. I really love that moment. I think Jungkook and V, the singing chorus from them sounds quite nice. I like J-Hope's first verse. I like Suga's second verse, although I think his flow here is not quite as tight as the J-Hope flow. The RM bridge, the tempo slows, but then the chorus really swells with these Jimin vocals. I really like that contrast. Really cool song. I like this one a lot. Aliens, I also like this one quite a bit. Mike Will made it production. Just another rap song right away. I think Suga sounds much better on this song. Kind of a multi-instrumental beat with these horns, that bass drum. J-Hope's pre-chorus, I think the auto-tune on his vocals sounds really good. The harmonizing on the chorus, too, from Jungkook and V, also really nice. And then you have Jimin and Jin with this refrain, also auto-tune, also quite filtered. I think it fits the beat really well. RM's verse for verse 2, hard as hell. I mean, RM really remains my favorite K-pop rapper in terms of, K-pop, boy band, girl group, girl group. Any of the rappers in any of those groups, I think the quality is often quite diverse in good and bad ways. They're really contrived rapping throughout K-pop from time to time, but RM has always felt to me so effortless and so capable and confident. It's never inauthentic, which is a problem I often have with a lot of other K-pop rap, and I think he sounds awesome here. The chant outro is also pretty cool. Faya, this is like a drum and bass beat. RM and J-Hope with this kind of looping hook. Jimin and Jin, the pre-chorus. There's more drums in that moment. Then RM back on the chorus. Kind of reminds me of Mingyu's Shake It Off, the 17 solo track. Not exactly the same style of production, but just like its placement on this album and how it kind of comes out of nowhere in a sense and drops a pretty strict EDM track on you all of a sudden. That's definitely where my mind went. I think V on the pre-chorus also kind of nice. Got that Britney Spears really direct interpolation there. I think lyrically though, the song overall might be a bit repetitive, but the beat's very good. 2.0, also a Mike Will beat. Pretty standard drums here. I think the Suga vocals, I like the distortion on those. It sounds pretty cool in general. A lot of vocal effects on this album. They're not afraid to experiment and modulate their voices here. I think J-Hope's haunting chant for his vocals also really memorable. Chorus again though, just okay here. Swim, as I mentioned, this is the lead single. This has the music video out now. It takes the 6th proper song to get a true break from any hip hop. Again, I just didn't expect that type of album sequencing from them. And yeah, I think it's a pretty solid, smooth, synth pop track. It's not dissimilar from a lot of other like kind of baseline K-pop you get right now, to be clear. I think RM's verse though, I really like it over that kind of twinkly bass. I think his flow here is really good, kind of matches the tone and the tenor of this type of track, which is not really rap. I think Jungkook's pre-chorus here is very strong. Jimin also sounds really nice on the chorus. I like the I Just Want to Die vocal line from V. I think that's really striking. Suga's verse 2 is fine. I think J-Hope's verse 3 though, the slower flow at the start, kind of noticeable. Merry-Go-Round, this one's whatever to me. Compositionally, I think it's just a little bit off. The vocals sound a little too drowned out for me. I think verse 2, J-Hope and RM wake you up a little bit, but the song's whatever to me. Normal, though, this is like a pop rock jam, kind of out of nowhere. Noticeable drums, but also guitar line really for the first time. Very strong chorus. I like the lyrics here. I think the vocals from Jungkook and Jimin and V and Jin, very passionate. I think that is really delivering in those moments. Verse 1 is a Jimin verse, and it's a bit subtler than I expected. You always think of him with those really noticeable high notes because his voice is so memorable and distinct, and it's a little downbeat for him, a little down level. Verse 2 is Hope World, solid. I think Suga's auto-tune on this song though is really great. I love that melodic delivery he's doing, and RM also really solid. Like Animals, guitar even more pronounced on this track. Chorus though is a bit washed out for me because the chorus itself is quite loud, so the vocals just don't really come through all the way. Still though, interesting sound for them. I think comp wise, almost like a dash of like Billy Corgan, like Smashing Pumpkins. Not something I ever thought I would say regarding BTS music, but There's some, rock of the past inspiration to be heard there for sure. They don't know about us. I think the vocal sample in the beginning is very cool. I couldn't place that at the time of recording. I'm not sure if we know the credit yet. I like the bass drum here. I think V and Jungkook really glide over that. RM's pre-chorus, I love that staccato flow. The way he delivers that sounds great. Jimin's vocals on the chorus, I think, are tremendous. Really love the tone there. The post-chorus too is like very, very guttural, and that post-chorus very guttural unexpectedly. I like the Suga verse for verse 2 as well. One More Night, very synth heavy. Really the most synth heavy song here. RM auto-tune, very noticeable. Dancey chorus, but the danciness comes and goes. I saw this compared to Focus, recent song from Hearts to Hearts, but that's a song that really commits to being that kind of house thumper, and this song kind of ducks in and out of it. Maybe it'd be cool to hear BTS on something that's a little really more directly like that. I love the heavy autotune though of Suga. I think frankly the sound of this is kind of reminiscent of some of the Jimin solo stuff that we got the last few years, frankly. The chorus though on this track, it's a little too underwritten for me. I just need a little bit more there. And I don't think the post-chorus adds all that much either. I think the J-Hope bridge though, it's cool. I like how the beat kind of like trips out in like a really heavy way. And the outro is dancey, but yeah, I think that's a song that like I like the ideas there. It's not like fully together for me though. Please, the snares are nice. I like that undertone. Jungkook, Jimin, the chorus there is really good hook. I think the vocal breakdown sounds really nice. Verse 1, I think Suga's verse really hard, love it. J-Hope's verse 2, just okay. The pre-chorus from RM, I like the auto-tune. I think his flow is great once again. Solid song. And Into the Sun, acoustic, bit of a noticeable whistle. There's a country twang, heavy auto-tune from V and Jungkook. And I just immediately laughed when I heard that. I was like, oh my gosh, I was not expecting this. Another, sonic diversion, another genre nod at. And if we remember, Jin, on the second solo album he gave us recently, that he nodded to country in other ways that were unexpected. So I guess this is a kind of callback to that. Noticeably, Jin didn't actually do any co-writing on this album like he has on past BTS albums, but that definitely struck me as something that's in the Jin camp in terms of like, sonic interests. The audaciousness of like that as like the end track was just really noticeable to me. Diplo, noticeably a co-producer there. Yeah, I think the J-Hope Suga verses, they're more traditional, right? They're not the obvious like country auto-tune twang. I like Jimin's exasperated vocals on the second verse too. And then the swell of the drums and guitars, really nice on the outro. So yeah, cool album. I think most of the songs are pretty interesting. I would really like to see BTS live. I've never seen them. They are playing by me, albeit it's a stadium show, like the show's for everyone. And it's like, it's one of those things where the opportunity is so tantalizing, even if the cost to get a remotely close-up ticket is very exorbitant. But I'll keep my eye on that just because obviously they have such a strong reputation as live performers. And at this point, they have such an impressive catalog, of music, right? The live shows, that's 30 plus bangers they're going to perform, right? Because I have that many at this point. So worth it, I have to imagine, and everyone who's seen them already knows that. So that's for me to figure out. But let me know, what did you think of BTS's sixth album, Arirang? Do you like this as a comeback? What do you think of their sound right now? Are you pleasantly surprised that this is not a full-blown, mostly English album after the success of Dynamite and Butter, like me? Did you have different expectations? What did you want to hear? Did you want to hear something more from the solo albums and those sounds that we've heard from the various members? Where are you at with BTS? Let me know, because we're going to be talking about them for a long time. I mean, statistically, we've learned that during this BTS hiatus, HYBE's shares were down close to 40%, and not shares, their profits were down close to 40%. And that's despite the fact that HYBE is a massive corporation with multiple sub-labels and multiple successful groups under them. And of course, we talk about most of those groups on this channel. Make sure you check out those reviews as they happen. But BTS is in a class of their own. And we're gonna see that because the projections for this tour are $1 billion plus, in terms of revenue and whatnot. I think the question with these tours, especially if they add dates, is how close do they get to Taylor Swift's Eras tours in terms of like total gross? Because they're going to do enough dates and they're doing stadiums. And even if they get like 50 or 60% of the way to her gross, that's still a crazy accomplishment that's basically peerless in terms of what anyone else could expect to pull off. So yeah, we'll be talking about BTS, we'll be paying attention, and I'm sure we'll be getting music again from them in the not so distant future. I don't know if I want to say the end of this year, because they're about to go on tour nonstop, it feels like. So we'll see. But we know they'll be around, and it's exciting. Let me know, though, what'd you think of it? And for more K-pop reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.